Good evening and welcome to the Speakeasy Podcast. Happy New Year's to all of you. And I'm looking forward to a prosperous and happy new year for each and every one of us here in 2024. And I'm excited to see what the Lord has in store for us this year. Welcome to our premiere episode of Unveiling Trauma. We will be coming to you live every Friday at this time to talk about trauma, identify what trauma is, help the public, and to help each of you to understand and recognize signs and symptoms of trauma. And tonight, I have two guests here in the studio audience with me. I have Miss Shauna Ashby, and I have Kiana Jones. And I'm going to bring them to the stage and welcome. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. So I'm going to ask both of you to just tell the audience who you are. And so I'm going to start with you, Shauna.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shayna. I am known on podcasts as the Family Life Coach. And I just want to say hello, all the way from Georgia.
Okay. All right. Welcome, Georgia. Georgia in the house along with Alabama. Yes. And so Kiana, I hope I'm saying your name right. Tell the audience who you are.
Hi, my name is Kiana. I'm here resonating in the Tennessee area, and I'm actually the author of You and I Inspired Me poetry book.
All right. Okay, great. And where can we purchase that book if we want to purchase it?
There's many ways. You can actually go to Amazon.com. You can also go to my website. It's www.KianaJones, the way it's spelled on the screen, inspiredme.com.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so I encourage each of you to go out and get a copy of that and read that. Let us support our Black authors, okay? And also you can pick up my latest release, The Invisible Soul, and I am on Amazon.com. 87 pages of life challenges, but success. Stories of people not looking like what they've been through. So get your copy today. So tonight we're going to talk about trauma. So let's start our discussion on trauma. So in your own words, Shayna, just kind of tell us what trauma is.
Oh my goodness. Trauma it can come in the form of a situational experience that actually happens that could result from emotional trauma or emotional abuse or physical abuse, something that happens to you that causes you to stunt your growth. It stunts you and it halts you from going forward in life.
Okay. All right. Very good. And we often hear people talk about our combat veterans and them undergoing post-traumatic stress disorder due to trauma from combat or trauma from being in the military or whatever has occurred. But there's different types of trauma that can happen to us along the lifespan and that we are not even cognizant that we have experienced trauma. I can give you a prime example, Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina brought a lot of devastation and just destroyed a lot. And I can remember my father's business was destroyed at that time. The building was leveled to the ground. And, he was at a stage in his life, he was trying to decide, okay, do I continue on? Do I rebuild? What do I do? And he attended a workshop for people who had been through Katrina and suffered loss, be it family members, because, a lot of people were killed, personal property, whatever. And he was talking to the facilitator about what occurred. And the facilitator asked him, well, do you realize that you have undergone trauma? And for the first time, he said he never thought about it. He never even considered that, hey, he had undergone a traumatic experience. And yes, he was undergoing currently at that time stress and trauma related to that devastation of that storm. He said it never even dawned on him. He said he knew he felt a certain kind of way, but he was just pushing on through it. And so that's what I want to do. I want us to kind of heighten the awareness. What are some signs and symptoms that we can look for and recognize to understand that, yes, we are undergoing trauma or experiencing trauma? Kiana.
For some signs to look out for, you can feel depressed. You can feel confused. You can feel alone sometimes, like you just leave yourself at a distance from others. You can see the physiological aspects of someone who's dealing with trauma. It changes everything in a person. Fear when it comes down to trauma. Doubt sometimes when it comes down to it. You can feel rejected, low self-esteem. The list just goes on and on of signs that sometimes we don't recognize that we're battling trauma.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to throw one more in there. Hoarding. When we tend to hold on to possessions and things and surround ourselves with stuff.
Hoarding. I was going to give another one as well, too. I was going to give anxiety.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you're absolutely right. Shayla, you are correct. But I recognize the hoarding part with myself, after the death of my mother. And through my grieving process, I began to surround myself with things. Didn't need it, didn't want it sometimes, just obtained it. And you collect all this stuff. And a few months ago, I was looking around my house and I said, you know what? This house is nothing but a glorified storage unit because I'm never here. And all it is just filled with all the stuff I've collected over my lifespan, because I still have some things from my childhood that I'm holding on to. And I'm like, you know what? It's time for you. If you are going to grieve effectively, okay, and to continue to push forward, you're out here educating and empowering others to be their best selves. Okay, so what about you? What about you? And so I said, okay, it's time for me to start decluttering. So for the past 6 months, that's what I've been doing. I've just been, getting rid of stuff, giving things away, letting it go, because it's just stuff. It is just stuff. And a lot of times stuff can stand in the way of what we need to be doing as we're along this journey. And so, Shayna, thank you so much for bringing up anxiety. Okay, because a lot of people have anxiety attacks and they don't even know why they're experiencing this. They just, something happens, a smell or a scent can trigger it. And all of a sudden they're all hyped up. Their heart is pounding and racing and they don't even know why. And they don't understand why. Those are signs of trauma. Those are true signs of individuals experiencing trauma. And so the topic of our episode, our series is called Unveiling. And so when you are behind the veil, you're not able to see things clearly. You don't fully understand things. And so these series that we're going to do, we're going to unveil trauma. We're going to lift that veil and heighten awareness to help each of us and those of you listening to understand what trauma is, that trauma is real. Oh, yes, it is real. And to recognize some things maybe that you've experienced and you don't understand, or you are experiencing and you don't understand, or you see it in one of your family members and you don't understand. This is trauma. Okay. So we talked about the military experience. Okay. What about other things? We talked about natural disasters. We talked about the death of loved ones. And so, with the death of a loved one, we go through our normal grieving process. But you know what? Your life is no longer the same without that person. This person has been in your life for X number of years, and you've become accustomed to them being there. And we all know that one day we will leave this earth. We know that. We know that. But still, when that moment happens, the dynamic changes for us. And life as we once knew it is no more. And so, Kiana, kind of talk to us a little bit about death and trauma.
Wow. Death is very profound, like you said, as far as for everyone. It puts you in a state of being, whereas, like you said earlier, of not wanting to let go, even though we know we're here temporary. When it comes down to death, it's not something you could just easily get over. It takes a lot of sitting in the emotions when it comes down to death, which relates to a lot of trauma that can happen. So you will see like the similarities of the trauma and grief because of one, like we said, anxiety. You don't want to be alone for some. Some keep themselves a little bit too busy when it comes down to losing a loved one. Not willing to go through the emotions. Some people become numb in order not to go into, hey, I want to deal with what just happened. Some people have a hard time speaking about their loved ones. Some people have a hard time listening to the voices of their loved ones. The list really goes on and on when it comes down to dealing with death itself. It's really something that you have to take time and literally sit in. Sit in a way where it's understanding to you. Some of the things that can be done when it comes down to death, if you have a faith, whatever your faith background is, to lean into it, not run from it. I had many experiences myself as far as dealing with death. In each death, there was a different emotion to it. Anger, bargaining, denial, so it's really, really something where, like you said, it's like a letting go because you love what you just lost. And That's a hard thing to deal with. That's hard,
And I like what you said. I like what you said about with each death, there's a different emotion. And that is so true. That is so true. I know for me, with the death of my mother, it was one of relief because she had suffered so much. And I was just happy that she was no longer uncomfortable and in pain, because that was not her, and being totally dependent on someone. So it was more or less a relief, even though I missed her and I still miss her 21 years later, but it was more or less a relief. But for my dad, it was not expected. He had been sick, yeah, but he was fine. I was planning to go and visit him. We had talked 2 days prior, and it was just like, I get a phone call. He's passed away in his sleep. And I'm like, it was more of a disbelief. And even now, 4 years later, it's still a disbelief sometimes. I cannot believe that he's gone. I have to catch myself sometimes. I'm like, wait a minute, no, we're not going to do that because he's no longer here. Or I'm thinking about, I'm going to get this for him, and I'm like, why? So you're right. Each death is a different emotion. It's a different dynamic. And I don't know if it's because of the way the death occurred. Is it the relationship that you had with that individual? I really can't identify, but I think for me, it's more of the way it occurred. It was a shock because it was not expected. And it just happened. I was planning to go and visit him the next day, and boom, he's passed away. And so,
Yeah.
Shane, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh my goodness. I was just in here thinking about, trauma in itself and dealing with grief and dealing with death. Anytime that it's a disruption in life, meaning that I'm going along a path and I'm having my daily usual routine, anything that disrupts you, that catches you off guard, that you did not expect, and it may not be the best news, the best information, or the best feeling, like that is definitely trauma. That is trauma. Something that stunts you, right? So when it comes to grief is definitely a process, right? And we know that we're born and we're going to die one day, but it's one that's not expected. And one of the things, I definitely know about death all too well. I lost my father and two brothers. They all died the same way, 10 years apart. Motorcycle, car. My father was 43. My brother was 28. The first one that passed away, and the second one was 41. Yeah. So when I tell you, it's definitely a process, and you don't expect it. And like Kiana said, you definitely have to sit and process it, meaning that where are you with it? One of the things that I used to say was, a lot of times at the funeral, I always pay attention to the one that was crying the most. That was me at the age of 21, 22, because there were things that I did not say to my father. But what I've learned how to do is turn that pain from that grief all into great things or great emotion by remembering the great things that I shared with them. After it took time, I had to understand it. So basically what it empowered me to do is to build better relationships with other people. Say, I love you. One of my last words with my brother was, I love you. Excuse me. And I feel like that it empowers you to connect and want to build relationships with other people and be the best of yourself. And that you're supposed to take the great things from that relationship in order to build the next relationship or relationships with other people. So yes, grief is definitely a process. It's definitely trauma. It's definitely life interrupting. The Bible says that we shouldn't even grieve. We shouldn't even grieve. We should rejoice. And so this is the time that we should be rejoicing in the relationship that we had, no matter how brief it was. But at the same time, to empower us to have great relationships with the next set of people, or pour into somebody else who may be experiencing grief, to give them that understanding that they're not alone. When it comes to grief, I believe that family and other people who have experienced that type of grief, as well as faith, along with God, can empower you to get you through that grief.
Wow. Wow. And I'm listening at you. You said, telling people why they're with you in your presence, how you feel, you love them, what they mean to you. That's so important, because once that person is gone, you can't express that person. And so learn to appreciate people that are in your path. Appreciate their presence. Yeah. That is so important, because we never know.
Yes.
It says life is just a vapor. That is so true. We never know when it's going to be the last time we see someone. We never know. We need to appreciate each moment that we have with our friends, our families, and our loved ones, and do all we can. If it's something simple as baking some cookies for that person, their favorite pie or whatever, do it. Patti LaBelle told a story one time about her sister Jackie. Said Jackie was sick and had cancer. Asked, "Can you bake me a sweet potato pie?" She said, "Well, I'm too tired, Jackie. I just can't do it." Said, but she would just keep giving Jackie all this money. Jackie didn't want that money. Jackie wanted that piece of her. she wanted that piece of her, and she said that she felt so bad when Jackie passed away because she didn't realize it until then that the
Wow.
money was not important to her. She just wanted that something that her sister, person that her sister made with her hands for her. That's all she wanted, that connection.
Right.
And so we have to
Yeah.
consider that. And we have to
Yeah.
remember that. We have to remember that,
Yeah.
let your friends know you care about them, show your love, not just at Christmas. I look at people during the holidays and in the hustle and bustle, and they tend to be more friendlier out in the stores. And as soon as the holidays are over, they're back to their evil ways. Come on now.
Yeah.
We
And you
should
know
do
what
them
else?
every day.
And you know what else to add on to that? As far as dealing with grief, make sure you reconcile. Make sure you reconcile whoever you're right now having um, problems with. And I don't know what type of problem it could be. Only the person and individual know what they're going through, why they're mad at that person. Because in the end, when you lose someone, you understand that, like you say, you can't express how you feel, but also not being able to express how you feel. It's like you have to live with that guilt, which is another form of grief that people deal with, is guilt for what they did not say while the person was here. And I will tell many people, forgive yourself. Besides the love, also make sure you're forgiving yourself. Because when you're able to love you, even in that moment of the person's passing, you're going to be able to express that love genuinely to them each and every day. So definitely, definitely work on that guilt and forgiving yourself, because that's an emotion that I see a lot of people, it's hard for them to deal with after the fact, because they can't hear that person's voice. They can't see that person. There's no physical in front of them. So it's very hard. And they're crying, I should have. You don't ever want to live a coulda, shoulda, woulda life. Do what you need to do now. So if there's someone that anybody needs to reconcile with at this moment, do it. Pick up the phone, send them a text, meet them for lunch, whatever you got to do. Because it makes the difference. It's the memories that makes the difference. Because that's what you're going to remember.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And it's so important. My thing right now is I have a grandson. And so I'm trying to establish as many good memories for him as I can, because that's what will get you through when death comes. And I look at the memories of both of my grandparents, and things that they said, their teachings, the things that we did, going fishing with my grandmother. She loved to fish. That's how I learned how to fish. Going fishing with her, baking cookies with my mother during the holidays. That was a big thing in our house, baking Christmas cookies. And I look forward to it every year. And so my grandson is 2 now. And so that's what we did. Of course, he could care less about the process. He enjoyed putting his fingers and stuff and messing with stuff. But that's okay. He will have that memory. He will have that memory. And so, with our loved ones, our children, whomever, our friends, memories, make those connections. And you're right, reconcile. Because at the end of the day, when you look at what you're upset about, is it really worth it? Yeah, it made you mad when it happened. Yeah, you felt a certain kind of way about it, but at the end of the day, does it matter? I was mad with my son's father for years. And I thought about it one day. I'm like, you know what? You're sitting here mad with him. Number one, he doesn't know that you're mad. And number two, he doesn't even care. So let it go. And I tell you, when I let that emotion of anger go toward him, I just let it go, the dynamic between us changed. And I mean, it changed for the better. And even to this day, my son is 25 years old. To this day, if I pick up that phone and call him, what you need me to do, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And so Reconcile. Let things go because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's just stuff. And we can't take any of that stuff with us. So let it go. If they did you wrong, okay. Just tell them you did me wrong. I know it, but you know what? I still love you, and we're gonna move past it.
Yeah.
Now, are you gonna forget it? No, you're not gonna forget it. Okay, but you're not gonna just keep beating that person up about it. And guess what? Because each time you beat them, you beat yourself too.
Yeah.
And that is trauma. All these things that we have talked about fall up under the umbrella of trauma. So reconcile. Get rid of, let go of anger toward one another. Establish memories, good experiences. Be kind to each other. Love each other. Let each other know that you love them. And all of these things helps us to unveil the capital T word of trauma. So, Shayna, what are your thoughts?
Oh my goodness. I was just thinking about the Bible scripture that says, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. Oh, wow. That was one of the scriptures that we go through things in life and everything doesn't work out like we want it to. Maybe with a friend, it could have been a coworker at the job. It could have been someone at school. But when you get upset and you think about what that person has done, you know what? It's not even yours to hold. So many times I can remember, being so young and being emotional. We have to learn how to control our emotions. We have to understand why our emotions are eradicated as they are at the time the trauma happens. We have to understand it, have knowledge of it and learn how to control it, but yet and still learn how to let it go and let God, in all that. Because it's not ours to handle. I've seen so many times where people have stabbed me in the back or done things to me, and I had to sit back and do nothing, especially when I know I put my great foot forth, especially when I know that I've done nothing wrong. God will handle it. I've seen it work out for my good, and not to go against the other person, but just more so to protect me as a person myself and protect my heart. It's so easy when you've been through so many traumatic experiences that I don't think that people understand that it causes stress and strain on the heart. The heart becomes stressed. The heart becomes strained. The heart is a muscle. But not only is the heart a muscle, but it also is a light. So you want to make sure that you do not put out that light of greatness, of good fruit, of good thoughts. You get what I'm saying? Toward the next person or yourself. There was a situation that happened this week with a few females at the job. They were coming against me. And when something happened, when an email went out and it was going against my boss and a text message came to me, they came to me and they was like, Shayna, are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking it. I'm still on this side of the earth. This side living, okay? And when you look at other people who have experienced more things than you can't do nothing but sit back and smile. Because it's somebody that didn't wake up this morning. It's somebody that didn't get to say, I apologize. It's somebody who didn't get to, say, you know what? I thought about that thing and I messed up. When I look at my grandfather is 98 years old. He lost grandchildren and sons and a wife. And he's 98 years old. When I look at him, I say, what am I crying about? What am I thinking about? What am I going through? I need to learn how to live my life so I can be like that. I want to expect or have an expectation to make it to 98.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Amen. As my grandfather used to say, he lived to be 96. And he said, you know how I've learned to live this long? And I said, how? He says, I mind my business. I mind my business.
Yeah.
He said, I don't mind. I don't get in people's business. I mind mine. And that's what has kept me alive so long.
Yes.
And he was the type of person, he was the same way every time you saw him. Nothing upset him. To him, it is what it is, and that's it.
Mm.
Exactly.
That is it. So, wow, this has been a great discussion, ladies. Kiana, any final thoughts?
Ah, release. That's the word that came to me.
Okay,
Release.
okay,
Literally. Um, I literally have a poem that I thought
okay,
about.
okay. I was
That I
waiting. I was
wrote.
like, okay. I was wondering, is she going to come with it? Okay.
All right. I'll tell you the title at the end, but most likely you all are going to guess what it is in the end. In the deep of the body, you have something that is hidden from all mankind, something that vibrates and creates many feelings that can't be controlled. You wait to this being every day, wondering will it be okay, figuring out how to make it through. Deep down in your body, something is lurking. It allows you to feel the flow of tears from your eyes. It allows you to express the joy you may feel inside. It allows you to become sad and blue. It allows you to just deal with your emotions the best way you can. The heartbreaks that are felt are deep within because they were given to you. Deep, deep down, you try to search for words to find in order to express your love over time. You even try to run, but you have nowhere to hide. It stays with you day and night, asking you, are you right or wrong for what you want to say? You feel this emotion deep down inside to the point you ask yourself why. This thing that is inside of you goes way behind what any human can do, running and hiding from what you don't want to see. It comes out in the darkest season that you must finally confess. What have I been doing with all of this mess? Pushing it down not to feel the emotions. One day you'll wake to an explosion. All the feelings that you suppressed in is now hitting you like a boxing match. Trying to get up, but you seem to fall. The emotions finally arise to your great death after all. No more hiding from what you ran from. Now it's time to deal with the garbage that you allowed to infest. Deep down, you just wanted to confess. Develop self to become positive. Learn to trust in the one that can be silent. The aches and pains that are felt in the body because you haven't dealt with the problems that wasn't in the body. So you continue to cry, why, oh me, crying again, asking, trying to seek sympathy. Your soul says no. You now must deal with me. Release the pain you allowed to infest me. Release the pain that you were able to see. Release the pain that you allowed inside of me. Release the pain so your soul can be free. Release the pain of your yesterdays and tomorrows. Release the pain so I can mold thee. Release the pain so that I can use what was created to be. Release the pain so finally you can trust me. I am the soul that you must seek day and night. The soul you must face when there is no light. Deep down inside, there is another part of you. I am the soul that created you. Release to be set free.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
Love it.
Powerful.
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 Yes.
That's all I can say about that. Powerful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you so much. And so, to our listening audience, I thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we were able to unveil some of the aspects and the traits and signs and symptoms of trauma. And until next week, when we come back and have our discussion again with you, may God continue to bless you richly today, tomorrow, and forever. And have a good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.